Hi, this is Michael Buffer, and welcome to the BoxHard Podcast.
Hello, everyone. This is Mikey Garcia.
This the monster from the swamps, Regis Rougarou Program.
Hey, what's up? This is King Carlos Molina, former IBF world champ.
This is Michael, the Bounty Hunter, 2012 Olympian and your people's champ.
This is Charlie Edwards, flyweight champion of the world.
This is Fast Eddie Chambers, and you're listening to the BoxHard Podcast with my main man, Joey Coastman.
Hello everybody and welcome to episode 508 of the BoxHard Podcast. I'm your host Joey Coastman. I'm joined as ever by former heavyweight world title challenger, the main man himself, Mr. Fast Eddie Chambers. Eddie, how you doing this week?
I'm doing great, my man. How about you?
Always good when speaking with you, Eddie. We're going to dive straight into the review part of the show. We've got 3 cards to visit. We're going to start here with this one, a small card that went down last Saturday at the DIY Kitchen Stadium in Wakefield, Yorkshire, United Kingdom. Just one fight to mention over here. Zelfa Barrett, of course, picked up win number 33. He carries 3 losses. A 6-round points win for him against Ramiro Lopez, now 8-27. Like I said on last week's show, it's barely worth mentioning, and it's a bit of a waste of time in all honesty. Moving now though to the massive Netflix all-women's card that went down on the Friday, July 11th at the Madison Square Garden, New York, USA. Like I said, live on Netflix. Jake Paul, MVP Promotions. Let's touch on the undercard. There's a few fights to mention here. We saw Chantel Cameron, friend of the show, move to 21-1, a unanimous decision for her over 10-2s against Jessica Kamara, now 14-5 with a draw. That one for the WBC interim super lightweight world title. Good performance from Chantel Cameron. A lot of the kind of American audience were on social media praising her performance, which I liked. I thought that was quite cool because I don't think at times the American audience have really given her much credit for her fighting style and stuff like that. Obviously, I remember when she boxed Melissa, what was her surname? Melissa Hernandez. She went out to the States in Vegas and stopped Melissa Hernandez. And a lot of people were massively overlooking Cameron in that fight there, if my memory serves me right. But yeah, good to see her kind of go out there again, get another win, and she really dominated in that fight there. It was a good performance from her. I do want to say though, I felt that she got hit flush quite a few times as well, so credit to Kamara for that. Kamara's a good fighter. She was a humongous underdog, and I couldn't understand why, you know. I think Kamara is a better fighter than what the odds were, but obviously Chantel Cameron with the unanimous decision win. Scorecards in the end quite wide, 9-1, 9-1, 8-2. Moving up the card once again, we saw Ramla Ali pick up win number 10 with 2 losses, a unanimous decision, quite surprising, over 8-2s against Lila Furtado, now 11-3. Scorecards 77-75, 77-75 again, and 78-74. A lot of people felt that Ramla Ali was extremely fortunate to pick up that win there. We also had what I thought was probably performance of the card. Shanika Johnson picking up win number 18 of 20 fights. She's got 2 losses. A TKO for her in the 9th round of a scheduled 10 against Sharetta Metcalf. Both ladies friends of the show. Sharetta Metcalf now 14-5 with a draw. That one for, I believe, 3 or 4 of the belts at bantamweight. Shanika Johnson was brilliant. I said it on last week's show. I felt quite confident in her. I was really impressed with the way she boxed Nina Hughes last time out. She went into this fight here full of confidence, and I just felt that if she could put that pressure on Sharetta Metcalf, it would be a bit too much for Sharetta to be able to cope with. I wasn't entirely sure we'd see her put a dent in Metcalf early. I thought it could be a case of we're going to see the pressure getting put on gradually as the fight kind of goes on, but Shanika Johnson started very, very fast. She hurt Metcalf early on and just didn't really give her a minute's rest, and it was a great dominating performance from Shanika Johnson. Like I say, a lot of people felt that she should have deserved the $250,000 bonus that one lucky woman would be given on the card. Also on the card, Ellie Scotney. She moved to 11-0, a dominating performance for her. Unanimous decision over 10-2s against Yamalef Mercado, now 24-4. That one for 3 or 4 of the belts at super bantamweight. Mercado, very, very tough, still never been stopped. She's been beaten by really good fighters. Ellie Scotney, Amanda Serrano, and a couple of others. She goes the distance. Like I say, very, very tough. Scotney was almost punch perfect the other night. And I actually saw Ellie Scotney today at the open workout for Dubois Usyk 2. Not a mark on her face. And obviously it's crazy to think that just 5 days ago she was there on the undercard at Madison Square Garden, and now she's in Wembley Box Park. It was quite cool. Like I say, not a mark on her. It was a punch perfect performance from her. Also on the card, Savannah Marshall loses a split decision over 10-2s for the IBF and WBO super-middleweight titles. A unification here against Shadasia Green. Friend of the show, we'll be speaking to Shadasia in a few moments' time. Shadasia now 16-1. Like I say, split decision over 10 for Shadasia Green. Shadasia Green also had a point deducted for holding. An interesting fight, a close fight. Savannah Marshall started very well. Shadasia Green, I suppose in some ways, maybe surprisingly, did some good stuff kind of late on. Obviously, we know Savannah was coming off 2 years out of the ring. It wasn't really ideal. A lot of people still felt that she won the fight. But again, a lot of people felt that Shadasia Green won the fight. The scores in the end, 96-93 either way, and 95-94 for Shadasia Green. So like I say, a really, really close fight there. It was in some ways a what you like kind of fight. Also on the card, Alicia Baumgardner moved to 16-1. She was a huge favourite against the undefeated Spaniard Jennifer Miranda, now 12-1. She loses her it was for all the belts at Super Feather. Alicia Baumgardner, like I say, a much tougher fight than anyone expected it to be. There were a lot of people going into the final couple of rounds that had Miranda up, or at least thought it was a really close fight, but Baumgardner gets the unanimous decision. Very, very wide cards in the end, 8-2 twice and 7-3. Some of the judging was really appalling the other night, that has to be said. I don't know if it was just a case of the 2-minute rounds throwing people off, but I just don't think that's a valid enough excuse, because it doesn't matter how long the rounds are. Bad judging is bad judging, and if you're on the receiving end, whether it's 2 or 3 minute rounds, it really doesn't matter. If it's unfair because the judging's poor, the judging's poor. There's no excuse for it. And the main event, obviously, we saw that trilogy fight. Katie Taylor now 25-1. A majority decision over 10-2s against Amanda Serrano, now 47-4 with a draw. Katie Taylor wins all 3 of the fights in the trilogy, all on points. They've all been relatively close fights. It was a majority decision for one of them, a split decision for another one, and a unanimous decision for the other one. But anyway, back to the fight itself. Katie Taylor was a clear winner, I felt, particularly late on. I think she did really, really well late on to dominate the fight. I said it on last week's show, I just could not get my head around the fact that she was about 2-1 to win the fight on points, the same method that she won the previous 2. It just didn't make any sense to me why the number was as big as 2-1. It should have never been that big. I think early on, the action was quite lackluster. The first couple of rounds, I mean, there weren't really any punches landed, to be honest with you. But yeah, I think Katie Taylor it was competitive in the sort of mid-rounds. Katie Taylor definitely won most of them rounds, though. And then late on, like I say, there's not too much to say about it, but Katie Taylor definitely dominated late on and was the rightful winner for me. Obviously, it was It was very poor in terms of action when you compare it to the previous two fights. The previous two fights were both Fight of the Year contenders, if not winners. And they were right up there with some of the best fights we've seen in recent years, let alone just the year that the fight took place in. They were phenomenal fights. Even for the second fight to live up to the first fight was a massive achievement, but the third fight just could not live up to the previous two. Like I say, no one wants to see a fourth fight. That's completely done and dusted. It's already been ruled out before this one even took place, but yeah, no one wants to see that again. It's run its course now, and Katie Taylor is the better fighter, even at at 136 or whatever the catch weight was. They brought Katie Taylor down a couple of pounds, if I'm not mistaken. She's just the better girl at that weight. It's just as simple as that. I'm going to come to you, Eddie, if there's anything that you want to touch on that all-female card on Netflix before we move on to the Stevenson Zepeda card.
Man, it was honestly a pretty good card, I thought. Although I missed, because it was at the gym time, to be honest, when we were training, so I wasn't able to watch the Ellie Scotney one in full, and pretty much I think the early card is what I really missed. I was started to be able to really focus on it when Savannah Marshall and Shadasia Green got in there, and also Alicia Baumgartner and what's her name? The Spaniard. What's her name?
Miranda.
Yeah, there you go, Miranda, and obviously Katie Taylor and I don't know what's wrong with my brain right now. I can't even get these names up. And Serrano. So, with the Shadasia Green and Savannah Marshall, I liked Shadasia Green's work toward the end of the fight, and you could see the skill and the ability and the power, even because she hurt Savannah with some shots, some good shots over the course of especially the later rounds or mid to the later rounds. But I thought that Savannah picked up the pace at the end of the fight and may have took two of the last three rounds, if I'm not mistaken. So I honestly thought that Savannah Marshall won the fight, but I thought at the end, she looked better at the end, but Shadasia Green, hurting her and almost putting her down in the one round, and just, I guess, some of the way her punches looked, I think she did better. I mean, I think the work looked better, but I just think Savannah outworked her, as the fight at the end of the fight. But she ended up getting a decision. It was extremely close, so I couldn't argue too much with it. But I still thought Savannah Marshall should have probably got it. But it is what it is. This is boxing, and it was close enough to where you flip a coin and give it to either one. So I'm gonna say this, and I like Alicia Baumgartner a lot. You know what I mean? Aside from just the look, but her ability is pretty top level too. But somebody needs to tell her, or at least work with her on defense. Her head was not moving unless the girl hit it, and that just made no sense to me. You know what I mean? It never makes sense to me that people don't consciously defend. You know what I mean? Like, if you're just standing there in front of a girl or in front of a guy, I just don't understand how you can have punches come at you and then all of a sudden react like, oh my God, I didn't expect that. Like, you're in a boxing ring. People are, you're fighting. Why wouldn't a punch come at your face? And why wouldn't you be prepared to catch it? Even if it was thrown in a way that it was difficult to see, you're still gonna, you know what I mean? You would at least have your hands in position to defend it. And I just didn't see that with her. Now, I understand she took some time off and she hadn't fought in a year or so, but to me, there's no excuse. I haven't fought since 2023, but even before that was for like 7 years. And if I get in the ring and somebody throws a punch at me, my head's going to move a certain way. These people have been boxing for the majority of their lives. They should be able to react better than that. I just think it's not a conscious enough effort to work on the punches that are coming at you. You know what I mean? I know, yeah, maybe it makes for more of an exciting fight, but I just think it's dangerous. You know what I mean? And if I was in her corner, if I was a supporter of her, I'd be like, look, whatever just happened ain't gonna make it. You're gonna have to start paying attention to what's coming, and then it's gonna make you a better fighter all around. So that was the big takeaway from that. I thought she could have done so much better with at least defensively, and I think it would have put her in a better position to win the fight. And honestly, more at a wider rate, as opposed to it being as close as it was. I thought she was a much better fighter. But anyway, as far as the Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano fight, it was a decent fight. Obviously, early on, she tried to, box her way to it, use the 1-2 a lot, but it wasn't a lot of diversity in her offense. So Katie Taylor, obviously the better boxer. I understand why. I understand that she wanted to throw something different at her. In the first time it didn't work. The second time it didn't work. But I thought the fights were closer the first 2 times than this. For her to go in and try to box with a boxer it was just kind of a little crazy. But I mean, hey, it's crazy enough that it might work. Who knows? It just didn't. But it didn't happen. So as good as Amanda Serrano is, and as powerful as she is, she should have went out doing what she does best, and that's going forward and putting her hands on her the best way you know how, and trying to get her out of there. But unfortunately, she didn't, and she tried to box, and now we know the score. And unfortunately for Amanda Serrano, she got beat 3 times by the same person. So I mean, it's unfortunate. Now they're both all-time greats. They both put on memorable performances. All 3 fights to a degree were great. I mean, the first 2 were awesome. This one not as much, but still a good fight. They gave a great account of themselves, but Katie Taylor obviously the one, and she bested her. So it's unfortunate for her, but hey, great for boxing in general and great for women's boxing too.
And then moving on to the final card of the review part. This one went down on DAZN pay-per-view at the Louis Armstrong Stadium in Queens, New York, USA. Over here, we both missed this one, Eddie, but David Morrell moved to 12-1. I do need to watch this fight when I get a chance. A split decision win for him over 10 rounds against Imam Katayev, who, of course, we all knew had made the news on Fight Week for failing a drugs test back in, I think it was April of 2024. The whole thing was crazy. He's had a few fights since the failed test, and he was allowed to fight here. He ended up, like I say, losing his O. He's now 10-1. David Morrell was knocked down in the 5th round, but managed to get up and win a split decision. A hell of a lot of people felt that Katayev should have got the nod there. Like I say, I can't offer too much in terms of what I saw because I didn't see any of it at all. I didn't even see the knockdown. What else did we have on that card? We had Alberto Puello move to 24-1. He lost his WBC super lightweight world title against Subriel Matias, now 23-2. Matias wins on points for the first time in his career. Another very close fight. I'll tell you what, that one was really, really close, by the way. A majority decision over 12 for Matias. Matias started really, really well, and Puello, I suppose it took him a few rounds to kind of get into it a little bit, but Matias made a fast start, a good start. It was a really tough fight to score, that one. Again, it was kind of one of them fights, like I said earlier, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but it's a bit of what do you like, Puello's such a good boxer. Matias was putting the pressure on. It was a really, really, really good fight, that one there. What else did we have on the card? Shakur Stevenson moved to 24-0. He takes the O away from William Zepeda, now 33-1. That one for the WBC lightweight world title, unanimous decision over 12 rounds for Shakur. Really, really good fight. I mean, I'm sure you're going to have something to say on it, Eddie. I'll come to you in a minute, but obviously this was at times, to be honest with you, the fight that you said you thought we were going to see. I talked a lot on last week's show about the fact that it's going to be a boxer against the puncher. Shakur's going to be constantly on the back foot trying to counter Zepeda. But you made a point of saying that you do think at times Shakur's going to come forward and walking backwards a little bit. And that is what we saw. You got that 100% right. I don't think either of us quite felt that we'd see Shakur at times on the ropes being hit quite often. Obviously, it was the fight of his career where he took the most shots, Shakur Stevenson. But it made for a really, really entertaining fight. I mean, he has come out saying that he doesn't think he's going to fight like that again because he felt he got hit too much. But it made for great viewing. And obviously Zepeda was able to drag that out of Shakur. It was a really valiant effort from Zepeda. But yeah, particularly late on, like Shakur was catching him all night long with massive shots, massive looking shots, really clean punches. Zepeda took them well, but they were really big scoring shots. And as the fight went on, the accuracy from Shakur, it didn't dip. It was still there. He was catching him late on. It was a really, really good performance, to be honest with you, from Shakur Stevenson. What else can I say? I enjoyed the fight, and he showed us he's got that dog in him for sure, which a lot of people were worried he might not have. And then finally, Hamza Shiraz moving to 22-0 with a draw, a KO for him in the 5th against Edgar Berlanga. Berlanga down twice in the 4th round. God knows how he made it to the 5th round, to be honest with you. I think the referee did him a favour, kind of, walk this way, walk that way, get up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6, 6, 7, 7, 7. He kind of really did a slow count. He gave him a lot of chance there, a lot of rest, and it kind of helped him get through that 4th round, I felt. And then obviously the first flush punch that he got caught with in the 5th round, he was completely finished. Really big win there for Hamza Shiraz. It was never a fight that I felt was going to go the distance, but I felt that Edgar Berlanga, I was kind of fancying him as a slight underdog. I felt he might just be a little bit, just because of his confidence, his self-belief. I think it does him favours, and I think that Shiraz may have been going into that fight lacking a little bit of confidence maybe after the close fight with Adamez. But no, credit to Shiraz. He really kind of got the full extent on his punches, I think is fair to say. Really caught Berlanga with the full extent. There were very few times where I felt he kind of broke the distance and got right up in Shiraz's range. When that did happen, they both would throw shots. A lot of the time they would miss or not really land clean. But I felt that Hamza did a good job at keeping it long, and like I say, he got the full extension on his shots. The punches were devastating in the end that hurt Berlanga, and it's a massive, massive statement from Hamza Shiraz to do something that Canelo obviously couldn't do. Obviously, that's what the hype train's going to be talking about. He's done something Canelo couldn't do, which he did, and credit to him coming off that close fight last time against Adamez. He arguably lost. He's come back, gone to the States, knocked out the king of the so-called King of New York in New York, and it's probably going to be a world title fight for him next again, I would have thought, Hamza Shiraz. But a great position he's in now following that last fight. Really good performance, and it's a massive statement. What are your thoughts on that card, Eddie, before we wrap up this review part?
Good card, the ones I've seen. Definitely the Shakur performance. It was something that stuck out to me. It was exactly how I thought he was going to have to fight. I knew that he was going to be on him. You know what I mean? He was going to be on him from the onset, from the beginning. He was going to push him. He was going to force that kind of fight. And I thought it's a good fight for Shakur because of that, kind of reaction, because it would be needed. There's no way that he's going to be able to get in there with a kid like that and be able to fight at range and just keep the distance and keep him off, because he'll take a few. And then it would be different if Shakur punched like Tank or something like that. You know what I mean? He would have then probably been able to get a little more respect, or maybe even get him out of there. But as good as Shakur is, and his power actually is probably a lot better than, the majority of people, the majority of fight fans who watch him think it is. You know what I mean? I think he did to a degree get some level of respect. He made him take a backward step a few times, and he obviously had to walk him down some too to keep the onslaught at a minimum, and to be able to keep. And that's why he said he didn't want to. He after this kind of a fight, you don't want to have to do this type of thing again. You know what I mean? If you can help it, because he knows he took too many punches. Maybe he dealt with them well. Maybe the power wasn't as much as we thought it was before. But regardless, he doesn't want to put himself in position to be taking any extra punches than he needs to. You got to give a lot of credit to William Zepeda. He did well to push Shakur, and obviously not just trying to push Shakur to make him better. He's trying to win the damn fight. So he did, but he did an excellent job in pressuring him and at least, putting his stamp on the fight. You know what I mean? And forcing the fight and giving himself the best chance to win. So as good as Shakur did, you got to give credit to Zepeda. He really made the fight really what it was with his energy and his aggression. But Shakur is just, he's just one of the best that there is out there, right? And it's going to be very difficult to beat him in any way. So, yeah, good fight there. And, of course, I'm so mad because I really like Sabril Matthias. I really like his style. I like how he fights. And I'm a boxer. I'm a boxing kind of guy. Me not getting a chance to see him fight Puello really upset me a little bit. Because I really wanted to see that fight, and I couldn't get it on in time to see it. So that really frustrated me, but I'm glad he won. And I'm going to have to watch the replay because I heard it was a pretty good fight. Yeah, the Hamza Shiraz and Edgar Berlanga, it's funny. Edgar Berlanga does so much good to sell his fights outside the ring. Just some of the stuff he says is crazy. And his wild belief in himself really gets you on board with him a little bit. on even if you think a guy is definitely gonna beat him, like Canelo, if you listen to him enough, his belief will make you start to like, maybe this dude might win. And then until he gets in the ring and things actually start to happen, then we realize how much of a fool you were to believe it. Well, I don't want to say a fool, but because he's not a terrible fighter. He's just, he could be a little overly aggressive at times, and he's not particularly technically the greatest, but he's not bad. He's not terrible. But that's not good. But his belief in himself is not helping the cause. But it's just it makes him an interesting fighter to watch, if you know what I mean. So, like I said, and that's good to be able to sell a fight, but that can't be everything. And actually, Hamza Shiraz kind of did good a little bit too, with the public interviews he was doing in New York. So, me just watching those things and seeing those little clips, maybe more interested in what the fight. Plus, I mean, I know these guys already. I know Hamza Shiraz is an up and coming guy, so it was just gave me more fuel to want to watch it. So, and I don't want to say it. I don't think it disappointed. I think it was some touchy times in there where, Berlanga landed a couple of shots, and he's a strong puncher, a big kid. So it looked at times as if he was going to actually, be in the fight. But then obviously the cream rises to the top. So, and that's what ended up happening in the fifth. And the unfortunate with the messed up part of this whole situation is that I was watching it, from round one on, and then my stream started to mess up. So it kind of threw off my real analysis of the fight over round 4 and 5, which was the part where it really was where it climaxed at. So from me, what I was seeing during the fight, like I said, it was going a little back and forth from, Shiraz looked like he started to, get some of his stuff in his range, but it looked like he was allowing Berlanga to get a little too close, a little too easily. You know what I mean? He wasn't using his height as he should have, at least in the part that I was watching, because you don't want to let hook right hands, get in or land when you're 6'4", 6'5". You understand what I'm saying? So, that I think that happened a little too easily the times that it did. But in the end, he ended up, doing what he was supposed to do and handle the business and ended up getting him out of there. But initially, it just looked like, kind of a I don't know what's going to happen kind of thing. But like I said, very interesting fight for as long as it lasted. Very nice ending to it for Shiraz anyway. And I'm wondering where this is going to take Berlanga, like where he's going to go from here. You know what I mean? He's obviously he fought Canelo and lost, and then now he fights Shiraz and loses and gets stopped for the first time. Just kind of interesting where his career goes from here. But obviously, Hamza Shiraz, sky's the limit right now. At least that's the way it looks. I'm wondering if he's going to get a title shot next. I'm hoping for him that he's able to land something big because, he's after winning this fight, as a main event on a big card. It's a good situation. It's a good opportunity for him. And I'm hoping that, he does big things coming from here.
Yeah, it's important to note as well that Hamza Shiraz moved up in weight for this fight, even though he looked, he's obviously he was the taller man in the ring the other night. You could see that he looked massive again for this weight class. But it's an impressive statement, like I say, to move up a weight class and do something that Canelo couldn't do with Berlanga. But yeah, that brings the review part to a close. It's now time to welcome this week's special guest. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the reigning unified WBO and IBF Super-Middleweight champion of the world. It is, of course, the one and only Shadasia Green. Shadasia, welcome back on the show.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate you guys, for all the support. Thank you.
We appreciate you. So, Shadasia, we last spoke back in September of last year. Excuse me. At the time, you were getting ready to fight Melinda Watpole. Just briefly, it's in the past now, but talk me through that fight. Obviously, a split decision, perhaps a tougher fight than people expected. She wasn't really a known name as such.
Right. Those are the ones that sneak up on you. I definitely, had a great training camp. But I think people they overlook Melinda Watpole. She's a great fighter. Young. As far as experience in ring ability, but she came to fight. She was after the title, and she was tough. Could take a punch too. Got a good chin, good strong legs, and she brought the fight to me. And it was a tough fight. I can't overlook her skill set or anything about that fight.
Absolutely. And of course, moving forward, you were part of history last Friday at the MSG, live on Netflix. The card was absolutely packed. You boxed Savannah Marshall of the UK in a unification. Talk me through the fight, another close one. You had a lot of people saying it could have gone either way. I feel like a lot of people did feel like you did enough, though. That's the general consensus. A lot of people I've found on social media since the fight do feel like you were the rightful winner.
Yeah, I seen that a lot as well, and I'm grateful for that. Savannah Marshall was a former undisputed world champion. I knew I had one of the hardest tasks ever in my life. July 11th. There's a couple people, maybe if we counting maybe out of 20 people, there's 3 or 4 saying it could have went another way because she started off really, really strong, and she definitely made me raise my skill level, made me raise my game, but I thought I clinched it. I thought I hurt her a lot, obviously. It was obvious to the judges, to the crowd. I thought I outboxed her. Even in the rounds that they thought I lost, the first 3 to 4 rounds, I thought I was using my jab, using ring generalship beautifully. And but that's what you got to love about the sport, the fans. They have opinions, and their opinions for me are respected. So I appreciate the good, the bad, the ugly. It comes with the territory. And don't forget Ring Magazine. I like that belt. I can't wait to get that belt. I'm just honored. I'm honored. Grateful for Jake and Nikisa and MVP for giving me the opportunity. I'm honored that it was Amanda Serrano and Katie Taylor leading the way and leading the charge. I'm honored to have shared the ring with such a talented and graceful and great champion in Savannah Marshall. And I'm honored to be sitting here talking to you guys today about it.
Oh, very well said, Shadasia. Where does that performance rank in terms of your career best performances?
I'd say that has to be my best performance. I stepped up. Savannah was no slouch. There was nobody that had, landed those type of punches on Savannah Marshall in her recent fights, even in her loss. Her loss was a split decision as well, but it was fairly close. The way that I handled Savannah Marshall and we fought back and forth, it was a thing of beauty. And she was definitely a strong competitor, and I appreciate that her. I think that Savannah will raise my game from here, and it'll only get better. You guys will only see better because she bought the fight out of me July 11th.
See, it's funny because I had a couple of messages from a couple of listeners over the weekend, well, after last week's podcast got released, and I was talking about the fight, and they were saying, why are you not supporting Savannah? She's from the UK. And I said, well, I've never interviewed Savannah. I've interviewed Shadasia, so that comes first. So I was supporting you going into this. Not many UK people were, but I was. It was another example, Shadasia, of how triangle theories in boxing just don't work. Obviously, you had a close loss to Franchon. Franchon lost to Savannah. You've then beaten Savannah. But yeah, just tell me again, how good is Savannah? Obviously, you have to also bear in mind the 2-year layoff wasn't ideal for her, I guess.
Yes, I understand that, after 2 years and getting back in the ring could be subjective. However, I think that Savannah rested too. She was battling a couple of injuries when we were interested in fighting her before. So sometimes that 2 years could allow your body to completely heal. However, she was still fighting. She was still doing PFL, which kept her active. And I understand she might have had to relearn some things that she could have forgot because of the difference in the two type of sports. But I prepared for the best and the sharpest Savannah Marshall that could appear July 11th. And that's who I felt like I fought against. However, fans may beg to differ, but I'm okay with knowing that I went up against one of the best female fighters in the entire sport, Friday night.
Yeah, well said again. We know that Jake Paul had announced that one fighter on the card would be given a nice juicy bonus, $250K. Based on your performance, you got the bonus. What was it like, I guess, before that happened, like knowing that there's a bonus on the line for any girl, giving you all an incentive really to motivate you a little bit further even? We don't often see this type of situation, especially for that amount of money. What was it like with that in the back of your mind?
It was a shocker to me when they announced it, but I knew that they always have something up their sleeves. Nakisa and Jake has done this prior to sometimes with, their cards, but it didn't overwhelm me. It wasn't the first thing on my mind. The first thing on my mind was I wanted to be victorious July 11th, whether I got the bonus or not. I wanted to walk away with those belts. I wanted to be my best self and have one of the best performances on the card. It's really, really extremely hard to upstage a great deal of talent that we were, displaying July 11th. All the females on the card were amazing. I mean, it was motivation. I had one belt, and to look to my left and right, and you see one person with 4, another person with 3. It was all motivation for me to, add to what it is that I had that incoming during, coming into that fight Friday. So whether I received the bonus or not, I was motivated from the get-go, and I was motivated in training camp to showcase my best set of skills July 11th.
And again, regarding the bonus, I'm not trying to trip you up here or anything. It's a difficult question, but one I want to put to you. Do you feel that you definitely deserved the bonus over the other women on the card? Obviously, it was a talking point on social media. A lot of people were saying names like Shanika Johnson, who got a good win against Sharetta Metcalf. But what say you to that?
Well, what I say is all the women did a phenomenal job. Those who, posed an upset deserved it as well. However, you have to look at my opponent. I was a 6-1 underdog. I had read online that Savannah was supposed to devastate me. She was supposed to KO me. So I was coming in with the fact that it was basically, if you saw the camera and the focus, it was basically the focus was on Savannah Marshall's return, not necessarily Shadasia Green performance. However, the tables turned when I got in there and I performed the way I did. So I thought I did enough to win the fight, did more than enough to win the fight, and I did enough to take a second look and say, hey, Shadasia Green showed up today, and she showed up with that mindset that she was going to be victorious. And, I'm sure that all the other women showed up with that mindset to do the same thing. I thought Ellie Scottney had a beautiful performance. Shouts out to her. And also Sharnika. However, between the minds of the, Nakisa, Jake, and Layla, they felt like the terms and the conditions of my fight, me being the underdog and me coming out on top, were deserving enough for the bonus. And I respect that. I appreciate that. I accept it, of course. And I'm grateful.
That's a fantastic answer. I think the underdog factor is extremely important and a great point. What do you want to do next, Shadasia? I know it's very early. Obviously, everyone's trying to shove microphones at you and stuff over the weekend. It's very early. You're just relaxing. But what do you want to do ideally, if you even have an answer for that question just yet?
Right now, the most important thing is spending time with my family because I sacrifice so much, and rest. I need the rest. It was a banger. I felt like I got hit by a car 2 days after the fight, and that goes to show you how powerful and strong Savannah is. So rest and recovery, and then I'll sit back with the team and see what's next. There's talks of Clarissa Shield, who's also a phenomenal, great fighter, and I think that would, be a tremendous event. And there's a couple of other people that, we can consider, but right now I don't have any direct names. My main focus is just to heal, rest, reset, recover, because I know that the next camp, my trainer is texting me now. He told me to rest and recover. However, he's still texting me about boxing. But the next camp is going to be another brutal one, and it gets better from here. I think that my performance July 11th, being in a ring with such a skillful fighter like Savannah, is going to allow me to be better in the future. Being that, I came out victorious in such a great back and forth fight. So I don't necessarily have an answer directly to what's next and who's next. I just know that there is a next, but hopefully it's a couple of months away.
For sure. I didn't know if you wanted to say a few words on Franchon Cruz de Zern. Obviously, she boxed a few weeks back. A lot of people felt she got a gift decision. Did you see it? Do you have any words on it?
I did watch the fight. I watched the fight. I thought Talia Ortiz was a great competitor. She bought the fight. She came to. I thought Franchon did what she did best, and I was in support of the ladies. I don't have any words for Franchon. Franchon obviously always have words for me. She gave me a short congratulations after my fight in person, but then, she went on a rant. So for now, man, I just keep silent on Franchon unless it comes across my desk differently with an offer, and that's about it. Because Franchon, she plays this factor of being in support of the women, but on the biggest night of my life, it's just like let me be. I just got out the ring, kind of like let me be,
Yeah, I understand that 100%. Moving on then to my final question, I'm going to ask you about the men for the first time in this interview. It's a question I've been asking everyone every week, really. Everyone's got an opinion on this. Canelo Crawford, what is your take on that one, Shadasia? Try your best not to sit on the fence.
I've said that before. I'm a fan of that fight. There's no such thing that a really great little guy can't beat a really great big guy. I think Andre Ward has proven that on a number of occasions. I'm looking forward to it. I think that Crawford has a lot of tools in his box that he can utilize. Sometimes size matter, and most times size don't. I just want you to take into heed to what I said. However, Canelo is still in his prime. He's been in the ring with an immense amount of talent at such a young, early age. So there isn't many colors he haven't seen. And I say colors meaning different things and elements of a fighter. I don't think that will surprise him, but let's see how he adjusts to it. The boxing, the movement. And Crawford is strong, and he's game. He's coming off a remarkable performance in the last 3 fights, beating Errol Spence, beating the other the 154 pounder he did. So he's really game, and sometimes really it's self belief that'll get you in the fight and through a fight and winning a fight. So I'm interested, looking forward to it. I don't have a pick because I haven't been able to picture them two and who does what. But I'd like to definitely be a fan of that fight. And I'm not saying no to anybody. I'm not saying that Canelo won't beat Crawford. I'm not saying that Crawford won't beat Canelo. It's an interesting fight. I'm excited about it and can't wait to watch that fight in September.
Oh, me too. Absolutely cannot wait. And just before we let you go, Shadasia, if you've got any closing words to the listeners, if there's any little message you want to sign out with, the floor is yours.
I just want to say to the listeners, I appreciate all of the support. Whether you thought I won, whether you didn't think I won, you watch. And that's what matters. Watching women's boxing is an amazing thing. It's a beautiful thing. We give our all. We take the tough fights that sometimes the men don't want. We're not afraid of the O, and we put it all on the line for you guys. And we appreciate you guys, for supporting us. And that's why we do it. And we love you.
Very well said. Another smash hit event on Netflix. Millions and millions of eyeballs watching live. Just absolutely fantastic. Shadasia, as always, the pleasure's mine. Thank you for your time. Congrats once again on a fantastic win, and we'll speak again soon, I'm sure.
Absolutely. Thank you and have a wonderful day, sir. I appreciate you.
Okay, now it's time for part 2 on this week's show. This part, usually the news part of the show, nothing to bring you in terms of news. So we're going to dive straight in then to the preview part. We're going to start here at the Wembley Stadium on Saturday, live on DAZN pay-per-view. The rematch, of course, but let's touch on the undercard first. We've got Vladislav Serenko, 22-0 of the Ukraine. He's got 19 KOs, obviously undefeated. Stepping in with the UK's Solomon Dakers, 9-1, coming off his stoppage loss to David Adelaide back in a round back in December. So it's been 7 months since then. He's up against it here. I'm expecting him to probably get stopped. We've got Adam Hamed as well, the son of Prince Nassim, 5-0. He's in a 4-round contest. We've also got another Ukrainian, Daniel Lapine, 11-0, stepping in with Lewis Edmondson, also 11-0. I think that could be, an interesting fight. I don't know how action-packed it's going to be because both guys are kind of out-and-out boxers, really. Obviously, Lapine is such a unit, 6'6" southpaw. It's a complete and utter nightmare. Lewis Edmondson, 6'1", so there's a big height difference here. But Lewis Edmondson's a very good fighter, very underrated. Beat Dan Aziz a couple of fights back. I wouldn't write him off, I don't think, but I think this one's got the distance written all over it. It's going to go the distance, I think. It's for the IBF Intercontinental Lightweight title over 10 rounds. All the best, of course, to Lewis Edmondson. We also have this one here, which I think could be quite interesting. Lawrence Okoli, 21-1 for the WBC Silver Heavyweight title. Back in a 12-rounder against South Africa's Kevin Lerena, 31-3. Okoli, obviously, up at heavyweight. He's moved up to the weight successfully. He's got 2 first-round KOs, so he hasn't shown an awful lot. We still don't know, in that short amount of rounds he's done, how well he carries the weight, as the rounds progress, kind of thing, because there's obviously a bit of weight on him now. He's not sort of skinny anymore. I think that really athletic build he had worked for him, to be honest with you, but now he's built slightly different, packed on some poundage, like I say. He's put on like 60 something pounds was the last time he weighed in. His last fight back in December, he was 260, which was insane. I don't know how big he is this time just yet. Obviously the weigh-in is tomorrow. I saw him at the open workout, like I say, but he did look quite big there from my recollection. But yeah, it's going to be interesting because this one here is not going to be another one or 2 round job, I wouldn't have thought. Kevin Lerena is a very experienced fighter, and the bookies have got it quite close, actually. So yeah, it's an interesting one here. I would expect Lawrence Okoli to win, but not with great confidence. I think this fight could potentially go the distance, and if it does go the distance, then I actually give Lorena a decent chance. But again, there's a big height difference between the two guys. Yeah, that could be interesting there. And then obviously the main event, the all-important rematch, Alexander Usyk for the undisputed belts. 23-0, stepping in with Daniel Dubois, 22-2. Obviously, one of those two losses came in the first fight to Usyk, which was a fight with a little bit of controversy, depending on what you thought of that quote-unquote low blow. I think a lot of people feel that it was definitely illegal now. I don't even know what to say about this fight, Eddie, to be honest with you. I think that obviously it has to be noted, Daniel Dubois, since that loss to Usyk, has had 3 fights. He's been the underdog all 3 times, all right? Big Baby Miller, Hrgovic, Joshua. He's won all 3 fights, all by KO, and his confidence is at an all-time high. Last time he boxed, it was in this very same venue when he knocked out Anthony Joshua. The crowd were booing him. They were for Joshua. He went in there, stopped him in devastating fashion in 5 rounds. No question of the way he beat him. It was just completely demolished Anthony Joshua. I mean, there's a few things that are kind of in Daniel's favour here. Just the fact that obviously, one, it's in the UK. Their first fight was in Poland. So one, he will have the crowd, you'd have thought. 2, it's in the very same venue that he got his best win ever against Anthony Joshua. I know that he was, that did his confidence massive things. And yeah, obviously Usyk has had a couple of fights since, both against Tyson Fury. The first one was a difficult, sort of grueling fight, I felt. He's got a bit older, obviously 38 years of age. Daniel Dubois still so young, 27, so there's over 10 years between them. If there's ever gonna be a time that Daniel Dubois will beat Alexander Usyk, I think the stars have aligned this time for Daniel Dubois. And like I say that because the home advantage, the momentum Daniel has now, the confidence Daniel has now, I think he's really gelled with Don Charles in this time. There's so many things that work in his favour. So if it's ever going to happen, it's going to happen now. If he were to lose this one, then it's never going to happen, and that's that. And we already know Usyk is an all-time great, and even if he was to lose this fight, it wouldn't really diminish any part of his legacy for me, or his world title reign as such. He's already, done amazing things. So, yeah, great fight. Thoroughly looking forward to it again, and yeah, you'd be crazy to miss it. It's gonna be sensational, I think, Eddie. What are your thoughts on that card before we move on to card number 2?
Definitely looking forward to the main event. Obviously, the first one was so interesting. You know what I mean, with all the controversy and all that. But the reality of it is, he stopped Daniel as the fight went on and got into the later rounds. Now, this is something like we talked about that, it was after, like I said, the controversy, right? So was his, now, sometimes it affects you mentally when you see somebody hurt or down, and then it's called, like a bad knockdown or a bad shot or whatever, so that now there's, you're giving them time to recover and all of that. Sometimes you're not your guard, you know what I mean? When I say your guard can be let down, your momentum can be kind of shifted a bit, you know what I mean? So it can throw you off into like where it's just like your mind is out of it. And in this situation, that could have been what happened, or it could have been, just like I say before, the cream just rose to the top. And Usyk then started to dominate and take control, or let's just say he was winning the fight up to that point. But he really just at that point, it started to show that he took control, and it was looking like he was getting ready to stop Daniel, which ended up happening anyway. Just what I think of a round or two after. So, I mean, I don't know. What was it at the time? it's still an interesting matchup. Look at how Daniel has been the last few years and the run he's been on. Like you said, Joe, he's just kind of, and he's been the underdog, which is great to show that he can, be on the downside of the card, which the B side of the card, which I have a lot of experience at being too, and still rise up and show your class. You know what I mean? Especially like what he did with AJ, and then on and so forth. So there is options here. I mean, there is an opportunity here. You know what I mean? That he can really make a statement and really turn this thing around and become, and really be in question for being one of the best guys out. Obviously, if he beats Usyk, that definitely is a statement in that direction, being one of the best heavyweights right now in the world, which he is already. But we're talking about he beats Usyk. Now he's put right up at the top. So, yeah, I mean, it's like I said, it's an opportunity to do that. And once he does that, now if he does, I mean, I'm not gonna say he is or he isn't. I still would favor Usyk. Obviously, he's an all-time guy. You know what I mean? His run has been insane. You know what I mean? Is what he's done at cruiser and then coming right into heavyweight and then doing it as well, being a quote-unquote smaller heavyweight and dominating. Well, I wouldn't say dominating Tyson Fury, but dominating the division by just keep continuing to win, getting all the belts and all. So, yeah, this is a good fight. It's at a good time. Daniel's on the upswing, so this is going to be something to see.
Absolutely. Well said, Eddie. We're going to move on then to the next card. We're going to touch on this one. It's just a smaller card, but we're going to mention it anyway. It goes down I say smaller card. I don't want to disrespect it, but in comparison, obviously, it goes down at the Meadows Racetrack and Casino in Washington, Pennsylvania. Over here, it's worth mentioning we have Ivan Dyko, 14-0 with 13 KOs, stepping in with Samuel Crosshead, who is 11-4 with a draw. That's over 8 rounds there. Best of luck there to the Kazakh Dyko. Also on that card, we have the Olympic champion, the Olympic gold medalist, Daniil Yelusinov, 12-0. He's back in an 8-rounder against James Bacon, who's 26-5. What a name. The Filipino 5'9" welterweight. All the best to him. Moving on then to the next card, which again is very much stacked. There's a few guys on this, a few friends of the show. This week alone might be the week of the most friends of the show mentioned. I'm actually going to count it up at some point. Yeah, let's count it up now quickly. I'm going back to the review part here just to look at these names. We got 1, we got 2, we got 3, 4 on the all girls card, 5, only 1 on the Shakur Stevenson card, which was Shakur. Go into the Wembley card. I've not interviewed anyone on that Wembley card. Moving to this card here though, I was on 5 already. We got 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, 9 people that fought from last weekend to this weekend that have been on this show. Anyway, sorry, let me get back on track. Let's start right down the undercard. We've got return to the ring for Gary Allen Russell, aka Gary Russell Jr. It's been it's been a long time since he's boxed. I want to just have a little look to see how long exactly it's been. He's obviously been training his other fighting brothers since the very sad passing of their father. He hasn't boxed since his loss back in 2022 in January to Mark Magsayo. So what's that? That's 3.5 years. He gets back in the ring with Hugo Castaneda, who's 15-2 with a draw. He's got 11 KOs to his name. He was stopped just the once, and that was in his last fight to a guy called Demla Zamora, who was 15-0 to be fair. This could be a tough comeback fight here for Gary Russell Jr. All the best to him, obviously, friend of the show. Moving up the card once again, we have Mark Magsayo, another friend of the show, 27-2. We did just mention him a moment ago. He gets in with Jorge Mata, who's 21-2 with 2 draws. All the best there to Mark Magsayo. We also have another friend of the show on the card. Brandon Figueroa, 25-2 with a draw, back in a 12-rounder against Joet Gonzalez, 27-4. Again, this fight here, I would say, very much goes the distance, I think. Brandon Figueroa, since moving up to featherweight, in my opinion, my honest opinion, I don't think it's been a great transition, in my opinion. I mean, he's had 4 fights at the weight, if I'm not mistaken. I think he's had 4 fights at the weight. And yeah, 2 of them have gone the distance. He stopped Carlos Castro, which was a good win, and then he went the distance and yeah, didn't look fantastic, I don't recall, against Mark Magsayo. And then he didn't look great against Jesse Magdaleno before he got a stoppage. And then, yeah, he lost to Stephen Fulton last time, and it was a bizarre performance from Brandon Figueroa. Where were the punches? Where were those 10,000 punches? You know, he really looked bad against Fulton. And I favoured him big against Fulton because Fulton was inactive, didn't seem like his head was there. You know, he'd lost to Inoue. I felt like that might have took some of his confidence away, but credit to him, he looked really good against Brandon Figueroa. It was a massive shock. And Joet Gonzalez is always teak tough. He's never been stopped in his 4 losses. He's been in the distance in losses against Luis Alberto Lopez, who usually stops people, Isaac Dogbe, Emmanuel Navarrete, for God's sake. He stops almost everyone he gets in with. And yeah, went the distance in a loss to Shakur Stevenson back in 2019. So he's very much been around the block. He's been at featherweight for quite a while. If I'm not mistaken, he could even be a career featherweight if my memory serves me right. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting fight, this. I think Figueroa should win just based off the activity that he usually has. But like I say, if you're only as good as your last fight, then there are some concerns here, because Joet Gonzalez, I think, has learned from a lot of his losses. So yeah, this could be interesting. It could be close, but I'm hoping that Figueroa gets it. But again, my pick would be that the fight will go the distance. We also have Isaac Pitbull Cruz, 27-3 with a draw. He's having a rematch with Angel Fierro, who's 23-3 with 2 draws. They boxed last time to a unanimous decision for Pitbull Cruz. The scorecards were wide looking at them now. I can't remember the fight off the top of my head at all. I know it was on the undercard of Figueroa Fulton 2 and Benavidez Morel, but I can't really remember their fight, and I'm wondering why there's an instant rematch. I'm assuming that maybe it was closer than what the judges had it. I don't know, because again, the scores do look they do look quite wide. But yeah, moving on, we also have the rematch between Sebastian Fundora, 22-1 with a draw, back in a 12-rounder against Tim Tszyu, 25-2. Really looking forward to this one. The first fight was a great fight. Obviously, the cut played a big part. But even before the fight, you were saying, Eddie, that if you were part of Tim Tszyu's team, you wouldn't be advising him to take the Fundora fight. You ended up calling it very right, because obviously he inflicted that first defeat, that first defeat on Tim Tszyu's ledger. And like I said, it made for a great fight. It was a split decision, but the cut definitely played a factor. Tim Tszyu obviously went away after that and stepped in with Bakram Murtazaliev, ended up getting stopped in 3 rounds when he just kept getting caught by the same punch. Since then, he's come back with a win against Joey Spencer, but Joey Spencer I don't think is like a top fighter, no disrespect. And Fundora, he's picked up a win as well against Chordal Booker in that time. It should be a really good fight again. And I am picking Fundora here, even though he is the underdog again, by the way. That's interesting. And then, of course, the main event. Again, this one goes down at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas. We've got Mario Barrios, another friend of the show, 29-2 with a draw, defending his WBC welterweight world title against Manny Pacquiao, 62-8 with 2 draws. Hasn't boxed since 2021 August, so pretty much 4 years out the ring since losing to Yordenis Ugas in that final fight of his. Yeah, I'm expecting Mario Barrios to have this one in the bag, Eddie. There's almost too much to say about this fight itself. You know, I don't want to spend too long on it, but it's kind of wrong, in my opinion, that Manny Pacquiao can just come back after that time out the ring and leapfrog everyone in line and get a shot straight away. And it's purely just coming down to name value and money, let's be honest here, because we know there's going to be a lot of eyeballs on this. That's why they've put it on pay-per-view. It's on, is it Amazon? Amazon Prime pay-per-view. They knew they were going to get eyeballs with Manny Pacquiao, but he's leapfrogged these guys, and he's kind of chose what they're calling the weak champion in Barrios, which I don't like as a Barrios fan. He's a lovely guy, and I don't think he gets enough credit. And he is the favourite here, but the odds are sort of quite close now. I think there's a lot of late money that's gone on Manny Pacquiao. But he should have it in the bag. He's a good fighter, Barrios. Very underrated. I don't know why he gets the disrespect. Any words on this packed card, Eddie?
Yeah. This main event is a little strange, to say the least. But, you know, it's the fame thing that gets me sometimes with boxing. It's like, you think of like the YouTubers, you know, obviously we were speaking about Jake Paul and things like that, who gets rated, you know, basically off of popularity, because if you really look at it, he really hasn't beat anyone of note to get put in the top 15 in the world. So you look at Manny, and I mean, Manny has done so much for boxing, has done so much in boxing, that, you know, I guess people were like, well, we just want to see him, you know, I guess see him fight, see what he has left. The career fans will definitely be happy to see him back in and get the opportunity to do something that, you know, is rare, and being a guy who's that age, going out and possibly winning a major title. Do I think he has a chance? I mean, look, we've went against, you know, guys in the past, you know, that have been in this position, and, you know, we've been wrong. But the majority of the time we've been right. And as great as Manny is, and as things that he's done in his career, I don't think, you know, that, you know, I think he's obviously a first ballot guy, but watching the last fight with Ugas, and this was 4 or 5 years ago, he just wasn't able to do the great things that he's done in the past quite as well. And that was 4 or 5 years ago. So now you could think that the rust has maybe gotten a little bit more intensive there. And it just looks to be a situation where, I mean, I just hope he doesn't look bad going in. I hope he does a good job. I hope he gives a good account of himself. You know, I hope he does, you know, for aging fighters like myself, you know, he puts it out there. As long as you take care of your body, you know, you still got a shot, even at an older age, you know, and I'm rooting for him in that regard. But I just don't think he'll have enough for a guy like Barrios, who is a legit champion, regardless of whether they think he's the weakest candidate or not. You know, that's always up for debate, you know, of champions. But I would say I would take Barrios probably by decision, you know. I don't know that he stops Manny, but it's tough, because you always think of Manny Pacquiao in his great years, you know what I mean? So it's like, in his time, would Barrios be a challenge for him, is the question. And honestly, I don't necessarily think so. You know what I mean? He's had trouble with the guys who, I guess they say, wouldn't be able to carry Manny's jockstrap in a suitcase. So I know styles make fights, you know what I mean? So we never know. But man, it would just be great to see him still in his time. But, you know, everyone gets old, you know what I mean? So Father Time is undefeated. So we'll we gotta deal with what we have on the table, and that's an older Manny Pacquiao. So let's see what happens. You know what I mean? I think, it's awesome to see him do it, or at least see him attempt to do it. But I would take Barrios in this situation.
Manny Pacquiao, 46 years of age now. Moving on then to the final card to mention, it goes down at the Ford Center at the Star in Frisco, Texas, USA. It's going to be live on DAZN. We've got 3 fights to mention over here. We've got Austin M.O. Williams, 18-1, stepping in with the undefeated 11-0 with 2 draws. Ivan Vasquez, that's over 10 rounds there. Ivan Vasquez, don't know if I've seen him fight before, in all honesty. Moving up the card, once again, we've got Diego Pacheco, 23-0, back in a 12-rounder against Trevor McCumbee, who caused Caleb Plant a couple of issues in their fight, even though in the end he was stopped in the 9th round. This one is scheduled for 12 rounds, yeah. So McCumbee, 28-1. I'm expecting Pacheco to get the stoppage here. Probably around the 4th round, I wowould say. And then the main event, we got Jesse Bam Rodriguez, 21-0, stepping in with Fumalela Cafu, 11-0 with 3 draws, a unification, if I'm not mistaken, here at super flyweight. It's great to see Jesse Bam Rodriguez back in the ring again. His opponent Cafu, he's a good puncher. 8 KOs from his 11 wins at super flyweight. That's saying something. Coming off a win last time against Kosi Tanaka. He's got the WBO title. So, unification. He's a good fighter, but I haven't seen tons of him. I saw bits of that Tanaka fight. I saw a couple of knockouts on some sort of reel that was put together. But obviously, Bam Rodriguez is a massive, massive favourite here. It's the BAM show there in Texas, and obviously that in itself is a homecoming fight for BAM. There's not too much more to say on that one. That then brings the preview part to a close. In part 1, we did the review part. Then we welcomed our special guest. In part 2, there was no news. We just wrapped up the preview part there. The final thing for me to do is to come in with the outro, which I'll do in just a few seconds. Okay, and this wraps up episode 508 of the BoxHard Podcast. I've been your host, Joey Coastman. Eddie Chambers has been with me for the duration of the show. A massive shout out to this week's special guest, that being the reigning unified WBO and IBF super-middleweight champion of the world, Miss Shadasia Green. The biggest thanks of all goes out to you, the listeners. Thanks once again for tuning in. That is about everything now from myself. Enjoy your weekends, people. Stay safe, and we'll see you all again same time next week.